Hi, I'm Tori with A Single Taste, and today we're at Big Rig Brewery with brewmaster Lon Liddell.
Hello.
Thanks, Lon, for being here with us today.
Oh, pleasure.
And Lon, I hear that you're a second-generation brewmaster. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started in the business in 1996. I was 21 years old. Before that, I was working in the dairy industry making cottage cheese yogurt. Found out that I was lactose intolerant and figured that maybe my passion for beer should take over. So I'd volunteer at a brewery the next morning after my night shift, and happened to be my dad's brewery. So he hired me on after 6 months, and I started in 1996 with him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how long did he have at his brewery?
He just retired a couple of years ago, so he's been in business for a long time.
How long has the Big Rig Brewery been going since?
Well, we opened up in June of 2012, so I think we're about 8 months in at this point, and the reception has been amazing. We're super happy. The beer's great, the food's great, and the customers are great. So.
Good, perfect.
Yeah.
Just in time for the hockey season.
Yeah, luckily the season's here.
So who else is co-owners with you then?
There's a group of 5 of us. There's Chris Phillips from the Ottawa Senators, Jimmy, Angelo, and Pierre, and myself.
Perfect. So it's a good crew.
Yeah, no, it's very well rounded. Lots of restaurant experience, lots of marketing experience, and then Chris is great.
Good. Good. And how many different types of brews do you guys actually do?
Well, we've got in-house. We've got 8 beers on tap. 6 of them are mainstay beers, so I keep those sort of on there permanently. And then I've got 2 taps that I call seasonal taps. So that's when I get to play a little bit, get to bring in new ingredients, try new recipes, and so we've got a rotating stock right now. The 2 that I have on at this point is a Scotch ale and an extra special bitter. So they're both sort of traditional English and Scottish beers.
Neat.
So it's a bit of a cheers to my heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this time of year. Robbie Burns Day and St. Paddy's Day is coming up.
It's near arrival.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah. Good. So the process of it usually takes about 2 weeks, you were saying?
Yeah. The basic process in the brewery is about 2 weeks, and then there's some maturing time after that. The brewing day is about 1 day, 8 hours. Then the fermentation takes about a week, and then the clarifying stage takes a week as well. So once the beer is clarified and carbonated, we can keg it and let the beer mature in kegs. So depending on the beer style, we let the beer mature for longer periods of time. Our lighter beers, like our Hefeweizen here, they don't need to mature as long as say our stout, which needs an extra 2-3 weeks in maturation.
Perfect. Okay. So this is say that for me again.
This is a Hefeweizen. It's a
Hefeweizen.
Hefeweizen, yeah, that's it. It's a German wheat beer, and it's about 50% wheat, 50% barley. And the yeast is a very special yeast strain that's from Weihenstephan, which is a German brewery, which they say that the first brewery in the world, registered brewery in the world, 1640 or something like that. Don't correct me. But it's a proprietary yeast, and we're lucky enough to have it. And so it's got some really interesting notes. It's hazy on purpose.
Delicious.
Thanks. The yeast stays in suspension, so it's a little bit hazy.
Yep.
And that yeast gives it its special flavor properties, which is banana, clove, and sometimes a little bit of vanilla. So this is traditionally drank at breakfast time, and we happen to be here in the AM, so cheers.
A breakfast pint.
Breakfast pint.
Cheers.
So one of the great things that we get to do here is we get to strip all the, we filter all our water to the point where there's no minerals in there. So we can reintroduce the minerals into the water to give us the flavor compounds that we want to emphasize different flavors in the beer. So what we can do, strip it out, find a well from 1350 in Germany, and put the mineral content of that well in and make it into this beer. So this is the beer that we were trying this morning. This is the Hefeweizen. We've got 50% wheat in there and 50% of the barley that I showed you over there. So when we're over there, we crush the grain and we expose the starch on the inside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get the insert water, get the starch nice and moist, and what's going to happen is the natural enzymes in the grain are going to convert that starch into sugar. And that sugar water is called wort, W-O-R-T, wort. So it's this is the beginning. This is where you're making all the sugar that the yeast is going to eat further down the process.
Okay. Perfect.
Want to give it a stir?
Really?
Yeah, go for it.
Magic. Made for making beer.
Why doesn't that? So we're creating the sugar that the yeast is going to eat further along. So we make it in the mash tun, then move it into the kettle where we have the hops, boil it for about an hour and a half, and then we cool it down through the heat exchanger here and move it into the fermenter. That's where we have the yeast. The magic happens. The yeast eats the sugar that we make in the mash tun, and it creates alcohol and CO2. That process takes about a week. After that week, we cool the beer down. All the yeast falls down to the bottom. We crop it into a sanitized container and reuse that yeast for future beers. So we use multiple generations of a single cell yeast.
So, in speaking of sense of the single taste, I think we're going to get back to a little bit more of the Scotch pint. What's it called?
Scotch ale.
Scotch ale.
Yeah.
So we'll go through, I think, a little bit of the process of that.
Sure.
If you don't mind us kind of walking through.
No, absolutely. It's a fun beer to make. It's steeped in heritage. The Scottish ale style of beer starts with Scottish, then Scotch. They're the same family. It just means there's a little bit more alcohol. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy a little bit more alcohol in my beers. It's a little bit more warming. So the Scotch ale, we put a lot of barley in it, and we add a special peat barley, which is basically the same barley they use for Scotch. So the barley is laid over beds, and then peat moss is lit on fire underneath it, and it smokes and actually smokes the barley.
Oh, neat.
So that's what gives it the beer a slight smokiness, iodine taste that you'll find in, say, a Lagavulin or something like that. So we add that, and then we also add a little bit of oats as well, true to the Scottish heritage. We get that in there. So what you get is a beer that's nice and malty, rich, a little bit sweet, and then what you round off those flavors with is usually in oak barrels. We don't have oak barrels yet because we've just opened. I'm planning on getting some soon. But I was able to get parts of whiskey, Scotch and Scotch and whiskey barrels, broke them apart and actually put them in my stainless tanks and let them sit in there for 3-4 weeks. So I get
diffuse the flavor a little.
Get some of the flavor in there, and so that brings that oaky, dry finish to the beer, which sort of rounds out that smooth, sweet beginning, and a little bit of smoky peatness in the middle, and then finishes off with the oak.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Sounds delicious.
I enjoy it.
Salivating. What I understand with your 6 drafts that you have available,
Yeah.
how are they for hits? Would you find one over the other, or do you usually recommend something if someone's never been here before?
Right. The beauty of having your own brewery inside the pub is you get to make all sorts of different kinds of beers. So I try to make beers for every style of beer drinker, from a new person to the beer world to expert beer drinkers. So of the 8 that we have on tap, I have the 6 staples. Those are Big Rig Gold, Big Rig Red, Big Rig Brown, India Pale Ale, Stout, and Hefeweizen here. So the majority of our sales is our Big Rig Gold, and that's by design. It's a very light, refreshing blonde beer that's got a little bit of body and some German hop finish. So it really mirrors that Eastern European lager ale style, which is popular and great for when you're sitting on the patio or watching the game. So
It's refreshing.
yeah, easy drinking, and so that one is our main beer, and we're actually starting to sell that off-site as well. We've opened up to other licensees, and so other pubs are buying our beer and putting it on taps at fine restaurants as well. So look forward to that around Ottawa. We also sell our beer in our retail store. We've got the Big Rig Gold in 6-packs, but we also have growlers, which are 2-liter moonshine jugs basically, and then any beer that we have on tap, we can fill them. So we fill them from the bar, and so you get to take those home with you as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
That's awesome. It's a good selection.
So thanks, Lon, for your time.
my pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
No problem, and I hope you enjoyed this segment of A Single Taste, and come and enjoy a delicious pint.
Cheers.
At the Big Rig Brewery.
All right, good morning. We're here at Ottawa City Hall this morning, and we've got the opportunity to talk to Mayor Jim Watson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Glad to be here. Thank you.
I feel like I know you already. I follow you on Twitter, and you are a very active person, not only in your tweets, but all around the town. How many events did you attend last year? And
I guess we combine it with meetings, so public meetings and committee meetings on about 2,400, something like that. So it's a pretty busy schedule, and I have 2 deputy mayors that help out as well. But the city is so big now, we're 900,000 and 2,700 square kilometers. So I'm always flattered to be invited to something, and I can't go to everything, but I try my best to get out into the community.
so for this coming year, same type of schedule, what type of events are coming up that you're really excited for, that you'd like the city to know about?
Well, we've been very aggressively trying to attract a lot of major events to help the tourism industry. So this April we have the Women's Hockey Championships, which is a big deal, and it's going to be exciting to see the best women hockey players in the world competing for gold and silver and bronze, and that's going to take place at Scotiabank Place. We've also got other less well-known sporting events, the Gymnastics Championships and the Duathlon taking place later this year. And we'll also be opening a new rec center in Canada and a new pool, an indoor pool, the first indoor pool that we've opened since amalgamation in Orleans. So there's always lots to do in the city.
Very good. That'll all help with the travel and tourism, for sure.
That's right.
You also have an active blog at jimwatsonottawa.ca.
Right.
Between the Twitter and your blog, you've really created a platform for people of Ottawa to be in touch with you. That's really changed from your first term, your first time as mayor.
That's
How has
right.
that changed things?
Well, you know, technology has changed things. You know, there weren't, you know, we were just getting into, you know, websites back when I first ran for mayor. And, you know, most people didn't have a website. So, you know, I've got a website, as you pointed out, JimWatsonOttawa.ca. My Twitter account is Jim Watson Ottawa. I write a blog, not as frequently as I should, but I try. And people can have direct contact with their politicians through Twitter. I do a monthly online chat, hashtag #AskJim, and I try to do things a little differently and do things like this interview, because you know, the traditional media, while they're still important, they're in many ways being overtaken, certainly by a new generation of people with blogs and other means of communicating and other social media.
Very good. So, with that said, the eyes now are on people more than they've ever been.
Right.
There's a window open up that people get to see what you do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's looking. I've been on boards, I've been in businesses, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody thinks you're doing it right, and everybody else thinks you're not doing it right.
Right.
So the eyes that matter most are always your own. When you look in the mirror, you've got to look and say, I did a good job. How do you measure your performance going forward?
I think through a couple measures. A lot of it is actually the feedback I do get from people, whether it's online or people stopping me at a shopping mall or a restaurant. And social media has changed the way you communicate now, and even the way you behave. You know, I'll go into a restaurant. I was in a restaurant last week, the Big Rig restaurant, and having dinner with some friends. And you know, right in the middle of the dinner, someone had tweeted, "Hey, I've just seen Jim Watson at the Big Rig." So, you know, there are not a lot of secrets left in politics or public life any more. But I base it on the feedback I get on emails and personal contact. How, you know, my agenda is clearing through city council. I made a series of commitments and promises during the election. And I keep a checklist, and if I've lived up to that promise, it's checked off the list. And as long as I continue making those check marks, I believe I'm doing a good job, because that's what the public had elected me for based on that platform.
Perfect. So, keeping in that line, your leadership role, how do you characterize your leadership? Is it working, and what kind of signs do you see that you know that it is working?
I think a lot of people have told me personally and through correspondence, they like the fact that things have calmed down at City Hall. You know, things were pretty dysfunctional in the past, and you know, your peaks and valleys of getting things done or not getting done, and squabbles and meetings that would go on forever and ever. And we brought a sense of calm to the organization. This is a big organization. It's close to $3 billion and 15,000 employees. And we provide a lot of services that the public expect. And they don't want to see a sideshow or a circus at council every second week. So I think we've brought a sense of maturity and vision and purpose to the role. And certainly I get that feedback all the time. It's not just, you know, once in a while. It's almost every day I'm out. Someone will say, it's nice that the council's working well together.
Good, good. So, it's a busy week. You get home. How do you relax?
Usually, you know, probably on the way home, if I don't have an event on Friday night, I'll stop and get, you know, like Swiss chalet or a pizza and just sort of crash and watch television. I don't get a chance to watch much television, and I'm too cheap to have, you know, PVR capacity, so I have to watch it live. So, you know, I'll watch something like, you know, Blue Bloods or, you know, The Good Wife or something like that, and or an old episode of Criminal Minds. And it's not very exciting, but it's nice to have sort of, you know, you just put on a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt, eat your Swiss chalet and watch TV.
Exactly. You hit a couple of my favorite shows in there too. So the show that we're doing is called The Single Taste. It's based on the Ottawa food and entertainment industry. So we're going to basically try to educate people on what restaurants are out there, what some of the best taste, good chefs, etc. around the city. Some of your favorites?
There's so many of them, it's hard to sort of narrow down. For sort of casual, you know, drop in, I always like going to the Newport, which is now closed but merged with Donna's Express and Moatella's. You know, the Keg Manor is sort of a good staple, a nice environment. You know, Becta or Play or the National Arts Centre, the cafe. I think we're really fortunate. You know, when I first arrived in Ottawa in 1980 to go to university, there just wasn't the caliber and the level of new cuisine and chefs that we have today. And there certainly wasn't the ethnic food opportunities that we have today. There was, there was Chinese and Italian. Today you can go and have, Ethiopian, you can have Portuguese, you have all sorts of amazing food. So we're blessed in Ottawa. And my challenge is a lot of the meals that I have are at banquets, at the convention center or a hotel. So I don't get to go and try out as many of the new restaurants as I'd like to. And then I get in my old comfortable habit of, well, I like Johnny Farina's across the street from City Hall. It's great food, but I probably should diversify and eat in some of these other new places. Like I've heard the Fraser Cafe is very good, and Stephen Bector's new restaurant in Westboro is very good. So I've got to get out and broaden.
We are creatures of habit.
Yeah, we are. I am
for sure. Last question. Do you have a personal model that you like to live by?
I like the slogan that the Scouts used. It was attributed to Lord Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouting movement, and he said, "Always leave the campsite in better shape than you found it." And I think if as a politician, as mayor, if I can leave the city in better shape than I found it, culturally, socially, financially, ecologically, that's probably a pretty good thing.
And you saying that, my grandfather passed away probably 10 years ago, and that was his motto too.
Really?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that until you just said that.
Yeah, someone sent that to me. I don't know where I found it, and I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it's sort of the philosophy that we have a collective responsibility to leave our neighborhood, our school, our community, our city, and our planet in better shape.
Perfect.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thank you.